Forsaken is an asymmetrical horror game, which is mostly survivor-sided. However, there is Craft, the Forsaken masterclass of making good balancing discussions. And I will be basically going over each how to fix section that Craft has made on each killer, or at least every type of balancing changes he has ever mentioned of discussing how to balance a character. Disclaimer: this video will be only going over recent videos Craft has made on a character and balancing discussions, and will not include 1x due to his recent revamp. And due to the videos being months old, excluding John Doe, I will only go over balancing topics that has not been changed. So, for example, I will talk about Noli's Nova, but I will not talk about his Void Rush. And bear in mind, my opinions are what I think makes a character healthy. Feel free to discuss on your opinions. And let's begin. Slasher. All roads leads to Raging Pace. Craft has made 3 discussions on how to fix Slasher. All of the discussions is about Slasher's Raging Pace ability. The first change is a speed buff, going from 19 to 19.5, or 20. I personally am fine with a small change. This change makes sense. Slasher gets to go a little bit faster while Raging Pace, but he's not too fast to make it where it's unfair, as he still does gain the stamina in that mode. The second balancing change is end lag lowered. Raging Pace end lag is either reduced or removed entirely. To be honest, I don't think this needs to be changed, since the whole point of having end lag is to punish for missing. Well, not missing, because it'll still give you end lag if you miss, but still. So if they were to do that, I suggest just lowering the end lag from 1 to 1.5 second end lag. That seems more reasonable than removing end lag entirely. And the third change is stun immunity when exiting Raging Pace. This is very balanced. Slasher should be able to get stunned immediately after exiting Raging Pace. It should have at least a 2-second stun immunity when exiting Raging Pace, so he can't get stunned immediately. This would make it so Slasher would get punished less for either missing or just being out of it in general. And to give one of my changes I would do, I would stick to Raging Pace, but I would make it so Slasher will not have a stamina cap. This will ensure that Slasher cannot be looped as easily, and the survivors have to work together if they want to survive. Overall, Raging Pace is supposed to be Slasher's X factor. It should be countered easily, and it should give Slasher his edge. Cool Kid, the Child. Craft has only given one set of balance change for Cool Kid, and that's Walk Speed Override being reworked. Walk Speed Override reworked. Increased cooldown from 20 to 25 seconds and end lag being reverted. Well, I can agree with reverting the end lag, since Cool Kid is supposed to be this highly aggressive killer. I can agree to disagree with the 5-second cooldown increase, as that does kind of kill the aggressive playstyle Cool Kid has. So instead of increasing the cooldown, I opt for lowering the initial damage by 5 to 10. Initial damage, not burn damage. Burn damage can stay the same. This would still let Cool Kid dash constantly in turn for less damage. Now for my own personal change, instead of touching Walk Speed Override, I suggest giving the brick more damage. Doesn't have to be a huge amount, but instead increasing the damage by at least 5, since it is a slow projectile. Overall, Cool Kid is supposed to be categorized as an aggressive, rushdown killer. That's its X factor. It's a reason why it's put in that category, as it should be speed blitzing survivors. John Doe, the Trapper. In Craft's video, John Doe got into discussions for what can make him better and more balanced. Corruption trail buff. Natural malevolence trail is increased. I can agree with this change. It is a good change. Reason, it allows John Doe to not get looped as easily, as his trail can shut down certain looping spots, as if a survivor walks on the trail, they will end up getting damaged. This can help John Doe get looped less, and still be rewarded if the survivor still continues to try looping certain spots for too much of a time. Unstoppable reworks. Speed boost is increased to speed 2 for 3 seconds, Sentinel stacking bonus is removed, gets full iframes for the total duration of Unstoppable speed boost, which is also capped with Unstoppable. I can agree with this for the most part. A speed increase allows John Doe to catch up with survivors faster, and I highly agree with the iframes when Unstoppable is active. However, I suggest, since the speed is going to be capped, either the speed boost be 5 seconds long instead of 3 seconds, or since an ability needs to be used to activate the Unstoppable passive, half the cooldown of an ability that was used to cause Unstoppable's activation. And just to be honest, I do not have a balancing change of my own for John Doe. Craft basically said all the things I would have said on my own. Overall, the buffs introduced in Craft's video is good for making Unstoppable and the trail better. If the survivor stacking is going to get removed, then increase the duration of how long Unstoppable lasts for, or the cooldown reduction should be added. Noli, the hallucinationist. So I will only be going over one change, because as I mentioned at the beginning, only the Void Rush got changed, not the Nova. Nova, manual detonation radius is slightly increased. I can heavily agree with this, as manual Nova is just too small to be doing much, and doesn't give enough value while using. However, even though I do agree with this change, I would also opt in for a faster projectile speed for the Nova, as it is way too slow, even with the slight radius increase for its detonation. So, a custom change I would suggest for Noli is something that Forsaken has talked about. It's with the hallucinations being reworked, because its main gimmick is pointless. Survivors can easily, well, mostly tell if they're competent enough what's a hallucination and what's not. So yeah, that's the only change I would add. Overall, loops negates Noli's Nova, so an increased radius can be very useful, and also an increased speed, so it can catch survivors faster. Sixer, the large animal. Sixer has been given 2 discussions by Craft. One of them did get added, so it's only one. Manic Fixation. Speed ramps up to 15% extra speed, but ends if attacking or the chase ends. It's basically a flat speed increase instead of relying on highlights, which does look more balanced. If you were to highlight a player, then you would probably not end up with a 20%. So, there's no balance change that I could come up with, because the end update did just come out, which kind of fixed like a lot of the issues that I had. Overall, Sixer being reliant on its highlight ability is just not reliable. Any players can be considered in chase, which can negate the 20% speed boost. Nosferatu, basically a full rework. So big, in fact, that I had to make a whole separate page for its changes that Craft has mentioned alone. With all its abilities, Craft suggested getting a rework and an empowered version. New passive, Unseen Hunter. Empowered when invisible, using any ability removes the invisibility. Good on paper. Works like Raging Pace, but you actually have to land your abilities for it to activate. Empowered M1, bleeding on hit. Fits the theme for a vampire killer. You could do extra damage with a little bit of bleed. Bloodhook, fast projectile speed. Cooldown increased back to 30 seconds. Long range version loses helplessness/soullessness, but increases end lag. Empowered Bloodhook always pulls killer, and always does 45 damage. All seems good. For better stats, increasing the cooldown and end lag seems reasonable. However, the minigame that should still exist for the empowered Bloodhook, far. But killer has 2x power, or something related to give the killer an advantage, as the empowered ability should be better. But so the survivor still has a chance to escape. It can't be just a free win. Catalysm. Slightly reduced speed, but increased travel time. Can end early while racing. Vision and hearing decrease the farther you go. Initial burst gives 10 seconds of invisibility. The survivor is hit. Empowered variant loses invisibility, but puddles are bigger and gives bleeding 3. All changes would seem fair. Slower, but can travel more distance. However, vision and hearing decrease the farther you go seems unneeded, and a lot of extra coding. Also, the survivors can possibly move out the way, as the vision will be too blurry for the killer to see that much. So if those are not added, then should be fair. Hunter's Feast no longer does damage with 15 seconds of visibility. Creatures and Oblivious is also given to the second closest survivor, well, closest survivor to the initial one hit. This allows killer to use its stealth roll more efficiently, simple as that. A good choice of change. Not going to mention Ascension, because that did get changed in the recent update. And just to mention, I will also not be giving any ideas for a change because this also got recently changed in the most recent update. Overall, like what Kraft said, Nosferatu can finally earn its title as an ambush-less stealth killer, as it currently can't do it. Its stealth is just not possible. Overall, as a closing to this video, Kraft has many respectable and good balancing ideas for killers that can basically make them more balanced in a sense. And the topic of balancing is always open for open discussion, since there's no official way to test the changes and see if they're balanced if they do get implemented.